Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this Baroque inspired edible paper design. I can't really think of a good way to explain it besides the fact that it is an aged Baroque inspired design where I utilized edible images on wafer paper. So if this sounds interesting, we'll get right to it. What I did was I made a template just using regular paper before I attempted to do this on the edible paper. And I just used sheets of paper and cut them into elongated triangles and pieced them together. And I have all these different sizes because I wanted to have some extra to play with. I didn't know if I was going to use them all, but I thought it's better to have them than not have them. So I'm going to cut them apart, cut them open so that you can see the shape. See, they're just elongated triangles. And I'm going to cut all of them down so that we can use them all as our templates on the edible paper. And this is the image that I found. This is actually a rug pattern that I found online. And I thought that would make a really pretty Baroque added element to this cake with the molds that I have, the fondant molds that I used for the scroll pattern. So I'm just putting these on the back side of the paper and marking them out and cutting them. Now I'm just using a pencil, and don't worry about using pencil on paper, edible paper that you're going to be using on a cake, because pencils are actually graphite, not lead. So even if you accidentally do not cut off all of the lines that you've marked, don't worry about it because it's not lead. That is a misconception. And I'm going to cut out all my pieces. Now, if you want to, you can go back and turn your wafer paper upside down. I keep wanting to say rice paper, but it's wafer paper. If you turn it upside down after you print the first side, you could print both sides if you want to. But that is a lot of ink. So, and ink is not cheap, especially edible ink. So I did not feel the need. I knew I was going to use some petal dust to camouflage the lack of a pattern on the inside. And now I have them all marked. I'm just going to use regular scissors and just cut them out. Okay, so we have them all cut out, and I am just lining them up so that they take up less space and putting them in a Ziploc bag while I work on the individual pieces. Because the ones that I'm not actually putting the petal dust on, I don't want them to dry out because we're gonna have to add a bend to them. And if they get too dried out, they could crack. And I'm just using a fluffy brush, and I found it's kind of like a denim color of petal dust. And I'm just brushing it on the back. And I did this with every single piece. Now, you're not going to get a solid color, but you're going to get enough. All right, now to get these to glue together at the back when we fold them, I'm just made a little bit of wafer paper glue, and I have some wafer paper conditioner. I will put a link to both of the recipes, or at least the recipe, in the video description. Basically, the wafer paper glue is wafer paper mixed with some water, just regular water, and then put in the microwave on 10-second intervals until the paper has dissolved fully. And the conditioner, you use edible glucose, water, and the wafer paper. And you do basically the same thing. Heat it up, and then you allow it to cool in the refrigerator before you spray it. And the conditioner gives it flexibility, where the glue does, as it says, glues it together. I put rolls of toilet paper. Gross. Rolls of paper towel don't use toilet paper, paper towel inside these so that as they dry, which happens fairly quickly, probably, at most half an hour to 45 minutes they dry. So it keeps the arched shape in there. Because you added the conditioner, you don't want it to accidentally, because it has a little bit wetness to it, a little bit, you don't want it to kind of fold down on itself and stick together. So use those paper towels to help them hold their shape. And when you spray on the conditioner, only do enough so that it becomes flexible. Spray some on it, wait a couple seconds and see if it bends without cracking. See if it has some added elasticity. You don't want to wet it down so much that A, the pattern bleeds, and B, it disintegrates. So just take it step by step. Now those are drying. We're going to go ahead and add our buttercream to our cake. Now I started with a pre-filled and crumb-coated cake. And what I'm doing is I'm doing kind of a blue watercolor technique here. I'm using navy blue and royal blue and just kind of merging them together without over mixing them. And then I add a little bit of white to kind of give it a little bit more of that aged look. Not much white. You don't want to add a whole lot of white. And I left a rough edge on the top. I didn't smooth that down. You can if you want to, but I kind of like that little rough texture to the top edge. And then I'm doing the same thing inside of that edge to get the top colored the same as the sides. And this is my silicone mold that I'm using. I think this is beautiful, and I will find a link for you guys. If I can't find this exact one, I'll find something similar. But I believe that we got it on Amazon, so I should be able to find that for you. And then I'm just using navy blue fondant. Now, I didn't add any Tylose powder to it because we're going to use it right away. It didn't have to dry firm. It needs to conform to the shape of the cake anyway, so I didn't add it this time. And I just like to push the extra fondant into the middle and then slice it off. Be careful when you're slicing off your extra fondant, though, that you're not slicing your mold. That can very easily happen. And I did dust the mold with some cornstarch so that once I get them in here, and here's another one that I have. I'll have to try to find you that link too. You just kind of stretch the mold a little bit and use a sharper tool if you have to kind of get it to release from the mold. And it should come out fairly easily. And that's just cornstarch that you see on there. And that brushes right off. And to stick our wafer paper, or rice paper, we'll always do that, to our cake, I'm just using buttercream. You could use some piping gel if you want. I just found that the buttercream with something heavier like this is going to hold it faster. If you're using piping gel, you're going to need to use some toothpicks to hold them in place while they dry, which you can do. But for this application, I just found that since you're not going to see it, it's going to be completely covered, that the buttercream worked better for me. Now I'm just adding my scrolls to the sides and around the top. And I didn't have to, since my cake had some condensation on it from coming right out of the refrigerator. I didn't have to add anything to it to get these decorations to stick. But if you do need to, you can just use a little water. Works just fine, or piping gel. But fondant will stick to buttercream with just a little bit of water very easily, even with some shortening if you prefer. Then I'm using some gold luster dust, and I'm just kind of hitting the outside texture of these patterns. I don't want them solidly colored. I want them to be more just kind of aged looking. And I used a sponge and I used a fluffier brush. If you wanted a shiny metallic look, you could just add a little bit of Everclear or vodka to the luster dust and get a more shiny appearance. But like I said, I want it to be a little bit aged. So this worked just fine for me. And then I just kind of tapped it on the buttercream just a little bit also, just to kind of give it some shadowing. You don't have to do that. I just thought it didn't hurt. And then I did touch the very tips of the paper as well, just to kind of blend it all together. And there you go, guys. My Baroque inspired edible paper fondant. There's so many things I want to fit in. Fondant scroll cake. I hope you liked it and got some inspiration. And I would love to see anything that you come up with using any of these techniques over on my Instagram under the same name. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.